Hello, all.
Hello.
Hello.
We feel incomplete without Shaman here kicking us off. He tends to be the first voice everyone hears when we go live. He is restarting as we speak and will hopefully join us momentarily. But we can get started with some introductions even without our fearless leader. My name is MK. I'm part of the team at Gen City Labs, joined by my colleague Eric Arvite. And we're so excited for today's session. Joining us is Mylinh, who comes from the VeeFriends brand, a Web3 native brand led by Gary Vee. And the VeeCon, I guess the best word is festival, because it's so much more than a conference, but I'll leave it to you to define what it is and how it all fits together.
Totally. Thank you so much. Hey, Mike.
What's up, Mylinh? Sorry I'm late, everybody. Thank you all for joining. I'm sure MK did a fabulous job of introducing today's session. But no, Mylinh, the floor recognizes you. Tell us about you and all about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me today. As MK mentioned, I do work for VeeFriends, which is a company founded by the one and only Gary Vaynerchuk. Some may know him as Gary Vee. We were founded and our foundation, and we're based upon the NFT Web3 space. We have certainly grown in our short 2.5, almost 3 years to really kind of reformed and rebranded ourselves into what we're calling ourselves as a contemporary multimedia company. So we have started with NFTs, Web3, as many and some of you may know, and we've grown to collaborations with companies such as Squishmallows, Reebok, and Mattel Creations. We've done some fun things. So founded and based, our home and our heart is the NFT world, the Web3 space, but are continuing to, we feel like, not only innovate and continue to grow through technology, but also through what you would maybe say called tangible, more pop culture items and things, if you will, and continue to not only build our brand, but really share our message of just becoming better, kinder, good people.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your personal journey to get into the VeeFriends space. For those of you guys that don't know, I've known Mylinh for maybe 10 years. It's been minutes since we've caught up. But we actually met when she was doing crazy events for ESPN, the X Games, back in the day when we were doing, all sorts of fun experiential digital stuff. So you've gone from there into the athlete side in sports, into events, now into new technology, new platforms. Tell everybody a little bit about how you got started both in your career and then how that kind of arced into the world of VeeFriends and VeeCon.
Sure. No, absolutely. Not to date myself. I grew up wanting to be Jerry Maguire. So my goal was to be a sports agent. And for those, the sad part is I recognize that some may not have, nowadays, some may not have even seen the movie Jerry Maguire. So if you have not, here's the plug for Jerry Maguire. I wanted to be a sports agent. And I ended up working my first job. Wanted to get my foot in the door for a company that is no longer this company, but they're called AEG. And I went into buildings and facilities and sports and entertainment. Learned a lot through just operations, client servicing, sponsorships. And that's where I made my way to ESPN, working in sponsorship activation. Was lucky enough to work on the year that X Games was international. So was able to broaden my experience internationally, which was amazing. Like, who doesn't love to travel internationally doing sports and just engaging with people? From there, I went to Under Armour, where I was managing global athlete tours. So I literally got paid to travel the world with their top athletes. So I managed tours and did, marketing, PR, managed all the things for these tours with the likes of Tom Brady, Jordan Spieth, Michael Phelps, and Steph and Curre. Some names you may not recognize. All amazing individuals. Really, really thankful to have had that experience. But then I went to, and from there, so I had the media experience, and then I wanted the brand experience. So for me, I wanted a little more. I wanted the government body, if you will. I wanted the league experience. So I went to Major League Soccer. which was really, really cool, right? You get to see how an entity works and then how everyone weaves into it and how they work with brands and how media plays into it. So it's like almost a weave of all of the things that I already worked on. And then this gentleman gave me a call asking me to come work with him again, and I couldn't say no. So I went and worked for Steph and Curre directly. And that was a ton of fun. I helped him work on a brand he started called Underrated and helped him build the basketball tour there, and then left as soon as we launched the golf side of the business. Worked in women's sports for a little bit, and then here I am, get another phone call. Mr. Gary Vee calls and made me an offer that I couldn't resist. And I wanted to really be on the forefront of new technology, learn much more. There was just something missing from my career. And if, I told my mom, what cryptocurrency was, she was like, you're never going to get paid. You don't know what it is. So I was like, all right, sign me up. As soon as my mom says she doesn't know what it is, I'm in. And so it's been a great learning curve. I will be honest and say that I did not know a thing about Web3 or NFTs going into it, and have learned so much. I'm so far from an expert in it because it changes, I feel like, every other day. But I'm really thankful to be in this space and the community that we have. And we're continuing to build an incredible brand with VeeFriends and VeeCon.
That is awesome. And such a amazing and varied background from the big guys, right? ESPN and Under Armour, who have seemingly limitless budgets. I know that's not the truth, but they're huge players with big budgets and doing massive things, down to MLS, which is a lot scrappier, right? There's a lot less money there. They're doing a lot, they have agency to do more interesting things, all the way through working with Steph. That's awesome. And now landing at VeeFriends, where once again, you're probably in the scrappier, irreverent kind of experimental space, which I think is super interesting, because when you're dealing with new technologies and you have a little bit of explaining to do about what they are to your mom, to an audience, that becomes part of the story. But it's also part of the journey for me. When I got involved with Web3 and with NFTs, part of my journey was experimentation. Some of the most memorable things I've enjoyed in the space over the last 3 years have been the first things I tried, whether it was successful or whether it was a failure, and knowing the communities that existed of people who were doing the same things and connecting with them in unique ways. That was all very powerful for me, and remains to be one of the reasons that I believe Web3 is going to be, kind of foundational to our digital future. So that's awesome. So MK, Eric, I know you guys have a ton of questions. I don't know how deep we need to go into high-level background of Web3 and NFTs and things. I know our audience has heard that from us in the past, but I'll kick it over to you for high-level questions for Mylinh to start things down the building brand narrative path.
Yeah, no, this is great. One of the things I love about Web3 as a sort of a industry is it's, and you've probably heard us say this before, but it's flipping the sort of script from a brand having a monologue, outbound advertising, to more of a dialogue, which is more community focused, right? Because you have people that are participating in something that's a step above a normal consumer relationship with a brand, right? So I always love the community side of Web3. It's what drew me to Web3. And so I guess my question is, can you speak about the kind of the community around VeeFriends? Like, how do you engage with the community and grow the community? How do you solicit feedback? I love the mechanisms of community. So if you would elaborate with the VeeFriends.
Great. I mean, I feel like the Web3 wouldn't be what it is without its community, in all honesty. Like, it is really the strength of it outside of the technology, right? I've learned so much when I first downloaded my Discord. Let me tell you that ding was nonstop. So we certainly use Discord to engage with community. What I will say, look, it starts from the top. with Gary V and also Andy Krynak, our president. We actually we have a lot of the utility for VeeFriends is in person or engaging virtually. So we receive a lot of feedback. We don't have to really solicit a lot of feedback. It's generally given to us, which is great, right? We are in Discord, in person. We spend time with our community. I have very, very, very great conversations with folks. VeeCon is one of our amazing utilities for VeeFriends, VeeFriends holders, Series 1 holders. So VeeCon is, I feel like, the culmination. It is the summit, right, for VeeFriends. It's where everybody who owns a Series 1 NFT can come together, really get to know each other, network, give that feedback, what works, what doesn't, what's on the cusp of breaking, what's about to be in technology. I mean, it's there. Gary freely gives out his email and he reads them. So, like I feel as a company, we're very in touch with our community through social, through digital, through Discord, in person. We actually hit it from every single realm. I wish we could talk to all people at all times, but I think we do the best we can with what we have. And I think staying engaged, I mean, I was never on Discord. Now I'm on Discord all the time. I'm reading it all the time. I'm paying attention to Twitter. I'm doing more talks like this. I think that's kind of for us how we stay engaged with our community.
Love it. Great answer.
So and by the way, if you guys are not familiar with VeeFriends, first of all, if you're not familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, absolutely get familiar with Gary V. He's amazing.
You've been living under a rock, probably.
I know, but you know what? I hadn't heard. I mean, look, I've been following Gary V for like 4 or 5 years. He's great, inspirational, motivational, amazing human being. Just engaged in so many businesses, consummate entrepreneur. And VeeFriends, if you guys don't know, is a series of digital collectibles, originally digital only, digital collectibles that he started as part of the NFT universe. I am only a holder of Series 2, sadly, but that'll change one of these days. And, in the NFT space, in the Web3 space, you have a lot of consumers who are tech savvy, right? You have to be a little bit tech savvy to understand how to get a wallet, how to get money in Ethereum, how to actually buy NFTs, understanding what gas fees are and transaction fees, and understanding how to secure your holdings and everything else. So the learning curve is very, very steep. But what that does is it culls your audience down a little bit to very specific demographics who are interested and visionary. And, many of them are believers in the concepts of decentralization. That's what drove them to the space. A lot of them are speculators, right? As are many collectors and people from collecting baseball cards and other mementos. There's lots of different motivations behind individuals in this space. So watching the followers of Gary V kind of coalesce around this collection has been super fun, super inspiring. And he actually started an entire event called VeeCon around that. I don't know, Mylin, if you want to talk a little bit about VeeCon and what it entails. In my mind, it's part technology, it's part complex con, it's got a little bit of collectibles and card, it's got all these crazy things. If you can tell everybody a little bit about how it originated and then how it's evolving, that would be awesome.
For sure. Thanks for that great synopsis. You're hired. VeeCon is what we're calling our summit for the now, right? We have 5 pillars for VeeCon. It is a utility for VeeFriends Series 1 holders. So if you purchase a Series 1 NFT, there are 10,555 of them. It comes with a utility of access to this summit once a year for the first 3 years that we have it. So this coming to 2024 is our 3rd year. So basically, you don't have to buy a ticket. All you have to do is show up. And in this, the first year was a 4-day summit. This 2023, I don't even know what you're in. 2023 was 3 days. And this year we are going to be in Los Angeles at LA Live, August 9th through the 11th. And in this summit, how we have been building it and how Gary and I have been working on kind of building this experience, which is the fun part, is last year we had 196 speakers and panelists. For 3 days, you get access to any and all panels as a token holder. And we cover topics over innovation, marketing, entrepreneurship, technology, and pop culture, right? Amongst those 5 pillars, you can have many people come and speak. We had Tim Tebow, we had Drew Barrymore, Jessica Alba, Neil Patrick Harris, Ariana Huffington. We have some pretty big names, but we also have some pretty dominant folks in Web3 as well. Some founders and creators of some projects speak on stage. It's really a time and a moment over 3 days to network with like-minded visionary individuals. We're really there to showcase what NFT projects are working on, what's next in innovation. But at the end of the day, it's also that we're there to have a good time, right? So last year, I had the honor of helping build the full day 3 experience. The first day was, a field day. Everyone came. We rented out a state park, and it was just games and art and mascots. We had some of our VeeFriends mascots there. We ended that day with a concert from Busta Rhymes. And then the following 2 days were 2 full days of panels, talks. Gary spends a ton of time meeting and chatting with folks. Our speakers are usually pretty available and talking to guests. We have a total of 5 stages on site. So it's 3 fun days of just getting to know some of the other holders, some of the speakers. One of the things we're really proud of is accessibility. We want to make sure that people feel like they can chat amongst themselves, which means also with panelists and speakers, right? And so it's really a great opportunity just to not only learn more about just NFT and Web3, the Web3 space, but also what's happening in marketing, what's happening in technology, how are you being innovative? And a lot of times what we take pride in are the connections that are made there. You never know if the person sitting 3 seats down from you is your next business partner, or you never know if that's going to be your next mentor. I mean, the first year, there was a proposal on stage, so we've run the gamut. We generally have, and some entertainment, right? So we had some concerts at the end of the night. We had a comedian perform last year. So you can find a lot of the similar programming this year in LA. We moved from Minneapolis to Indianapolis, and now we're going to Los Angeles. We're going to try our 3rd year in a larger market and hoping to bring more individuals out. But what I can say is, to your point, Mike, there is a little bit of a barrier to entry, right? You have to understand how to make a wallet, what gas prices are, none of which I understood or knew coming into this, and learned very quickly, and which has also helped me want to build an experience that I can continue to build and bring more people into our world, right? When I say our world, it's VeeFriends world. What is a VeeFriend? And oftentimes when you say, I can't just go to Ticketmaster to buy a ticket, what is this, right? So it's been really fun in becoming innovative and trying to not only broaden our audience, but what I will say is finding new ways to make ticketing easier. And then I will leave it at that.
You articulated it so well, because I've struggled to explain the B2B and B2C that's all happening under one roof. You're not telling entrepreneurial folks they're going to meet their new best business friend, but it's an underlying thing because it's part of Gary Vee's narrative. He gathers those who have that hustle spirit. And then you have to add on this layer of storytelling to it of exclusivity. The fact is, you want to promote this event, you want it to be high profile, you want it to be all the things that an entrepreneurial person would want. And yet you're saying the tickets are very exclusive. And so how do you walk that line of growing the event, growing the experience, telling the story, but also knowing that you almost got your own roadblocks in place for the first 3 years while you have that commitment?
Totally. I think, it's fun, right? For those that have been in this business for a long time and creating events and experiences, it's like you're always told you got to sell tickets. Well, now it's like you kind of don't want to sell tickets because they're already sold, right? But you still want to make sure people want to come. So how do we build that experience? What are the things that set us apart from, and this is not saying that they're bad, but just set us apart from like the South by Southwest of the world or the young Davoses of the world. Like everyone has speakers. What is that touch besides the Gary Vee touch can we do to build the experience to make it more fun, more engaging? Once they're on, like we look at everything from the minute they sign up and we make our announcement, like, hey, sign up, subscribe, for the next update on VeeCon. We look at everything from there to when they set foot inside the footprint of our event, right? And if I took a step back, I even take a step to like, where are we going to host it? So we're not at the point yet, because it is so private and so fun. We can still do places that are somewhat different. We're not in convention centers, I'm sure with the four of us, we've been to many convention centers in our time for things. Like they kind of get a little old after the first 3 hours. So how do we spruce this up? So like the narrative and the imagery and the colors and just the city you choose is all taken into account when we're looking at this private event that we're trying to sell, if you will, to others who aren't a part of that community just yet, but want to be.
Yeah, that's super, super interesting, and a really unique, I think, set of circumstances in which to build a brand and to build an event. Mm-hmm. Quick room reset. Thank you all for joining us. My name is Mike Shaman. I'm here with MK and Eric from Gen City Labs. We do this every couple of weeks, talking about different topics in the marketing universe. Our guest today is Mylinh Chau from VeeFriends and VeeCon, who has a really exceptional background in brands and events, talking about VeeFriends and VeeCon, and really about how to build brands through events and experiential. If you're joining us on LinkedIn right now, we appreciate you. Thank you. We see you. If you're joining us on Twitter/X, or if you're consuming us on YouTube after the fact, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you. So Mylinh, a question for you. So, typically people go to events to learn, they go to educate themselves, and they go to have fun, right? Holding a VeeFriends NFT, it kind of is a little bit of a fourth layer, right? That makes them feel special and gives them access, because it's a way to kind of differentiate between, some attendees and others who are holders and kind of part of that VeeFriends community. How do you manage multiple audiences and making one feel elevated and special while also not alienating, rank and file folks who are attending without?
It's a great question that is asked all the time, because everybody wants to be special, right? And everyone is special. I think overarching, again, I'll just keep saying it starts with Gary. He's very open to access. So he wants everyone to have the same opportunity. And I think leading with that for VeeCon, there is no VIP program. There is no reserved seating program. It's open for all that hold an NFT, right? A Series 1 NFT, right? So it's like, how do you because Gary will say, great, you have that opportunity. Now, what are you going to do with it, right? So we really, truly try to live by that. I try to do that in how I plan and build the experience for those attending. There are some ways in which we do that throughout the year. Because look, VeeCon is only 3 days, right? We want to continue. You don't just build a community in 3 days. You have to sustain a community. You have to continue to make them feel special. So we have, there are specific NFTs that we have within VeeFriends that have their own utility. And we engage with those communities separately. And that's, to me, how we continue to stay engaged with certain members of the community. But then there are also then events where we hold, an open call, if you will, like, hey, we're going to be in this city. We're going to do this. If you hold any series, any FT for VeeFriends, feel free to just register and come on out, right? So I think we have moments for special groups and their utility, those NFTs. And then we recognize that we want to open events for all and have everyone meet each other. And then we plan for those events. So it's like really a fine balance, but I think it's an understanding of knowing that you do want to make people feel special at times, and you want to make everybody feel special at times.
I feel like I have to add a game to these live streams of every time the word community is used, it turns into a little drinking game, because we've had whole streams dedicated to community development and we've had experts on it, and community on its own is a huge topic. And yet every time we talk about marketing or events or other tangential elements, the word community keeps coming up. It's completely unavoidable at this point in a marketing strategy that an intentional community development needs to be considered.
For sure.
Yeah, I think, you know, the gold standard is 24/7, 365 engagement, right? Like that's, to your point, Mylinh, like 3 days is amazing, and an amazingly, like, you can have a really impactful experience there, but what are you doing for the other 362 days of the year, right? I see, and honestly, since the beginning, I think that, you know, blockchain, Web3, digital asset ownership is a really interesting and unique way to kind of tokenize community, to allow access to participation and to bond people together, right? Because you've got culture, you've got, you know, personal interests aligned, you know, there is the financial aspect, right, which we can't ignore in the NFT space, where these things actually do have a tangible value, and there are marketplaces in which they can be bought, sold, traded. And you have that really interesting alignment, the confluence of those elements coming together within a community to give everybody, you know, it allows everybody a little bit of a different motivation. Elements of all of it, I think, are impactful, and it drives greater participation and greater loyalty within that universe. So we've seen a lot of brands. You know, we worked with Nissan and GMR Marketing to launch their Heisman House NFT during the college football season. Thank you to our friends at Nissan, our friends at Solana. And, you know, then there you have this like rabid, passionate fan base of college football fans, right? And they did a really awesome job of mixing up the in real life event, virtual activations, and that kind of ownership, right? Which, you know, for college game day, they went to Alabama, they went to Texas, they went to Clemson. I see you, Liz. They went to, you know, they went to top schools all around the country. And so they'd have these amazing activations, right? They have a big footprint. You go in, and if you're there in person, you can actually collect an NFT, right? You collect a memento, not just to signify you were there, but then that in turn allows you access to contests, right? It allows you access to athletes, it allows you access to other things. So as we think about building an ecosystem, and building and brands utilizing these technologies, it's really interesting, because then that NFT that you get in real life applies to virtual. You can also do it the other way, right?
For sure.
I think what VeeFriends has done, release it digitally and virtually, and then redemption is for that physical event in person and in real life. That value exchange between consumer and brand, I think, is really unique. It's one of the unique things that I think blockchain allows. You know, I love to see how you guys are building that and how it's been developing for you.
I mean, we continue to do fun things every day. Gary has an amazing vision for what VeeFriends can become. And what I will say is he is on record and continues to say all the time, it's his legacy. And so he will, you know, through collaborations with bigger brands, but never losing his roots with his community, his holders, you know, with how he engages with people. It's super important to him. He understands the utility. He understands, you know, in the utility, Mylinh, how do we make this cooler? How do we make this more in depth? How do we continue to evolve and innovate around just this one thing? Because yes, we have 3 years of utility for VeeCon specifically, but how do we continue to engage and grow? Can't give up too much alpha, but you know, we have a lot of amazing things on the horizon. In 2024, as Gary would say, is going to be a huge year for VeeFriends, inclusive of all the things for the holders and then what we call VeeFriends Curious, those who want to know what VeeFriends are and we'll finally get a better sense of learning who we are this year.
I love how you sort of you're teasing more utility to come. That's
potentially. I don't
No, I
know
get you.
about, you know.
I know you can't necessarily reveal, but maybe if you could sort of let us in on the process, like how does VeeFriends choose collaborators or partners?
Mhm.
How do you look, what do you look for in a successful partnership, into the future as you are, planning utility for all the series of VeeFriends?
I mean, I think like any brand, the synergies have to make sense. And for a brand like VeeFriends, we have 268 characters in series one alone, just with character attributes. We want to make sure, very much like a Sesame Street, that it makes sense, right? Are the brands that we're working with kind kudos? Are they, gratitude gorillas? Are they, practical peacocks? Just do they embody our ethos and who we are as a brand? And then from there, Gary's involved. We have a team. Andy's very much involved. They look at, does this partnership make sense and how we're trying to grow and who we are as people and really trying to make the world a better place. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I think through the characters, Gary, and I feel like everybody who works there truly has a passion for making people better. And so leveraging not only the narrative and the stories we have with our characters, but molding that in with brands and relationships that Gary has, like to continue to further that message, right? Squishmallows. I mean, they're just, how can you not like a cute, squishy, cuddly pillow? But they also make people happy. Kids love them. How can we tell a kid a story through a squishmallow? With Mattel Creations, right? There is we did a collaboration with him with the Skeletor. We have a skeleton, so it's like those synergies, when you see them come to life, make total sense to the person looking on the outside. But it's like there are months and months of time taken into like what story, how can we build this character? How do we continue to tell people about this character? With 268 characters is a lot to choose from. So we have lots of options, but we'll continue to do that. And how we look at brands, I feel like, for example, when Stefan's looking at a brand to work with, Under Armour made sense. Like when Nike is talking to LeBron, that makes sense. So like those kind of synergies is really, for me, how I kind of see Gary approaching a lot of VeeFriends collaborations and brand partnerships as well.
I love that. I don't think I'd ever linked partnerships to storytelling or a brand narrative. But the way you're describing it, it does very quickly help audiences understand, hey, you like us, you like something else. We have similar values, we have similar communities. There's some reason why both of these communities should pay attention to each other. I think I probably underestimated the impact that can have in accelerating the ability to tell story. Jump right into the good part and the fun part that everyone can celebrate because there's a baseline that each brand brings to the table.
No, totally. And something we always consider, believe it or not, when we're building these experiences, whether it be how you come through digitally from our website, how you register for VeeCon, to have like the first moment you step inside the event space, right? What do you see in front of you? Is it rainbows or, like what is it that you see? Even to the hotels we pick and proximity and how easy is it to get to? We want people to feel welcomed at all times. We want people, like for me, when I'm building experiences, and this has been for me throughout my entire career, what is that one core memory you're going to have? Was it that you were able to afford to take your family and 2 kids and you remember the smile on their face when they got to see, Neil Patrick Harris on stage from How I Met Your Mother? It could be anything. That association could be anything. And as we're building experiences and affinity and just education around our brand, when I help work with Gary and build these experiences, all those things are taken into place, right? Like you want that memory. Like you can go to a conference all weekend, but what's that one line that you remember from that one speaker of the 20 that you listened to that weekend, right? And how did you feel? And then what after that? What did you eat? What was that? what is that great meal that you had afterwards? Was it there at the convention? Was it there at the summit? Like things like that are the crazy thoughts that go through my mind as I'm helping build the experiences for not only our staff, but also those who attend.
I'll never forget my boxed lunch at the Javits Center during the Gartner Tech Symposium in 2022.
Can I just say I was there
Everybody
for
has
NRF.
a story.
They couldn't even get food out of the kitchen on Martin Luther King Day. Like, I don't know if it will stand out in my mind as a lack of food.
I mean, think about it. Everyone, as I say that, everyone has that one story. They were like, man, that was horrible. But that one story wow, that was great. You can
very memorable
immediately.
I will tell you that one of my, to kind of loop back on something you mentioned a minute ago. Again, if you don't know Gary Vee, go look at some of his videos. They exude positivity and charisma and support. And like, he's such an amazingly, charismatic speaker and individual that comes through in everything that you guys are building. There's a lot, you can talk about kind of corporate social responsibility, CSR stuff as a trend, which tends to get a little bit impersonal, right? You look at a list and you check the box, and it can be very inauthentic if you're like, yeah, we're just going to give a few dollars to charity or something like that. When it is organically part of a brand, which is very different, right? Because then you'll have any brand that can say we're donating here, we're doing something here, there's an activity there, which is great, right? That's not to tear that down, but man, the thought that went into VeeFriends and VeeCon, and again, it starts with Gary himself, right? The fact that he is such a motivator, the fact that he is such an inspirational figure, like it's part of everything that's associated with the brand. And I love that, A, that's the foundation, and B, you can embrace that and use it to encourage people to improve. And, that's learning, that's meeting new people, that's just finding enjoyment in those things. It's something that's really hard for a lot of brands to capture, I think. If you are, and I'm looking through the attendee list to make sure I don't offend anybody, if you are like SAP, right? All of my friends at SAP will tell you that it can be challenging to embrace that when they are such a tech heavy, data focused enterprise organization. So let me ask you a question, just based off of not just your current experience, but your past experience. How do brands that are less consumer focused authentically engage an audience in ways that might be surprising or unique? And sorry, I know that's kind of a huge category question, but like, given that you've seen it, and most of the brands you've worked with have been consumer, so, but when you're dealing with ESPN, you've got your tech sponsors, you've got your Microsofts and Googles and others. Have you seen that? And maybe examples from within the VeeCon sponsorship world of how people are taking a hold of what you're building and then like amplifying that message to their audience?
Wow, great question.
Sorry, it's a really big question.
And I want to make sure I answer it correctly. I think for me, something that was less consumer focused still it has a little hook on the heart focus, right? So working for Steph and Curre on the Underrated tour, and what Underrated is about, right? It's for basketball. It wasn't us really shouting out to the rooftops, these are the 5-star athletes. We went for the underrated athletes. It was a basketball tour, a golf tour for the some of them could be 5-star, but those that weren't elevated on a platform or had a platform to be seen, right? So how would you sell that concept to a partner, right? So then now you're looking at mission orientedness and the partners that want to be a part of what Stefan believed in, right? What the mission of Underrated was to elevate these students, these high school students, to a platform in which they could continue to be better people themselves, go to college, get scholarships and whatnot, right? So when you're looking, I think it goes back to brand alignment and just mission and values. When you're Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. It's not hard to do, but at the same time, you still have a product to quote unquote sell. Why would a Rakuten come in and want to be the title sponsor for this basketball tour that, by the way, we produced in a COVID year, so had no audience in person? So it's like very not a lot of digital. No, we weren't live streaming this. So like really truly aligning with a brand partner that was like, okay, we can take this mission and really not only elevate these students to give them a platform to showcase their basketball skills, but to really focus on them and align in making just better athletes and better people.
Awesome.
Hopefully I answered that right.
No, it was great. Awesome answer. Like my question was so like big and sprawling that you could have gone a lot of direction. I love the example you gave, because honestly, it was what I was wondering was like, who are those brands that have a similar values? Alignment is the word to use, right? They're moving in that direction. The property is moving in that direction. It's just an interesting, again, our topic today is building brand narratives, right? So that's a huge component of it, is that those core values that exist that people may not know, right? That's a way to humanize a brand. It's a way to, that's the association, right? That's the value they get out of VeeCon VeeFriends, Gary himself. Like it's that, it is that kind of power that he brings when he's up on stage and speaking. No, that's awesome.
I think there's also an expertise to the media channels. So I flashed back to how I did discover Gary Vee. And actually, Shaman, you were the one who introduced me to him. It was like a month or two into COVID, and you were like, you got to download TikTok. And I was like, that's for 12-year-olds. And you were like, no, it's not. You can follow business people and follow topics like marketing and entrepreneurship and small business. Follow this guy, Gary Vee. He's great. And that was my first exposure to him, which cracks me up now. But it is social media and other media channels, really. All of that is so core to the business. So events have to lock into that overall strategy. But how do you keep up on all channels that it operates on?
Thankfully, that is not my job. Thankfully. I mean, look, Gary's the master of it, but we'd be lying if there wasn't an amazing team that helps support and helps drive and helps stay on top of what's new, what's hot, how to do the superimposed videos, how to, what we should be doing on TikTok. There is definitely a team. Gary always says Team Gary in itself, just Gary himself has 40 or 50 folks that help him produce his content. He obviously is a star, but like he personally can only do so much in one day. We could only do so much in one day, but it takes a village, and he has just a great understanding of it. I think through that, those that work at VeeFriends and work for VeeCon have that passion for it also, and want to stay on top of things and look to those that work with us to make sure that we're staying on top of which content works best on whatever digital platform, right? I'd be lying if I didn't say otherwise. But it's kind of fun to stay on top of and learn from those, because you're right. When Mike says, hey, check this guy out, that's literally how it happens. It's just that organic, right? And so doing that as we're building narrative and creating the content in and outside of events and just around whatever we're working on has been really, really critical for just helping us build.
So,
I will just further endorse TikTok is an amazing platform for business people. I'm not getting paid by TikTok. I'm in no way related to them, but it is a secret weapon I use. If you guys take away, outside of all the awesome information that Mylin's dropping today, man, biz talk is cool. It's everything from entrepreneurs. I mean, Gary himself goes to garage sales and flips mugs and all sorts of stuff. It's people starting businesses. It's people actually looking at classic business case studies. Super interesting, easily consumable. I highly recommend it if you guys are, if you guys are so inclined. It's one of my favorite, because LinkedIn is becoming a little bit, sorry, LinkedIn, don't shut us down, becoming a little spammy. It's getting a little spammy in here, a little bit, little spammy in LinkedIn.
stream on.
And now we're shadow banned. Thank you, Shaman.
I'll go down
no,
in history as the episode where we got cut.
This is it.
It's
I
great.
know,
Enjoy
right?
it while we can.
Like, talking trash.
So, earlier you kind of touched on the 40 or 50 people that helped Gary with the social media content. I love getting into the nuts and bolts. If you're willing to share, how big is the team? What are the kind of basic roles? How because to put VeeCon together, I know that's separate, and managing the VeeFriends brand and community. What are the the different roles and how big are the teams?
Yeah, I mean, we have Andy Krenek is our president. He has been with Gary for years and helped really through the process of just creating VeeFriends, all the characters. Huge shout out to him. VeeFriends is now a team of, I believe, almost 50. And so within that 50, there is a marketing department, social and digital. We have commerce, right? Product, because we are, as Mike said earlier, we started as a collectible and NFT collectible, and been moving towards tangible collectibles as well, because Gary loves to collect things and it's part of who we are. And we also have an events department. Within that events department is also our partnerships that works on VeeCon. So I have the privilege of working on all things like VeeFriends experiences as well as VeeCon. And so as we're building VeeFriends, VeeCon is becoming its kind of own little, I call it my baby, because it takes so much to build that event for thousands of folks. So it's been great. It's an amazing team. We all work together. No one wears just one hat. As you can imagine, though, Gary is a very successful businessman and has many companies. VeeFriends is still a startup. So we're very startup atmosphere, right? It's like, I mean, I have no problem packing a box, packing a pallet. Not to say that I'm important, but like I'll do that just as much as I'll sit in a strategy meeting and help with all the other leadership team, figure out what the year could potentially look like. We have an amazing creative team that helps us not only continue to build characters, but just the look and feel. Our IP is growing every day. Hopefully Gary's legacy is like, we want to be as big, if not bigger than a Sesame Street and a Pokemon. Right. And so it takes a lot of creativity, which I do not have. And kudos to that team for making us look awesome all the time. But yeah, it's a small, strong team of around 50, and we grow by the day. But that doesn't mean we grow in head count. We just grow by the day, as any startup would.
Love it. Awesome. Well, we're coming up towards the bottom of the hour here. If you guys have joined us on LinkedIn, my name is Mike Shaman. I'm CEO of Gen City Labs. Once again, MK, our head of marketing, Eric, our head of partnerships. With Mylinh from VeeFriends and VeeCon. If you are here on LinkedIn, we appreciate you guys who join us live. We also love those of you who are joining us after consuming on X or YouTube or podcast or wherever this is going to be broadcast. As we move towards a wrap up, we usually do a quick final question that's going to be a roundtable one. I'm going to make it easy because I'll answer first, so you guys will have a little extra time to think. Today's question is going to be, because when I think of Gary Vee, when I think of his events, when I think of VeeFriends and VeeCons, first you think of the man, right? And you think of like the impact that he has on the individuals who are participating in this community. What is the most emotionally impactful event that you have attended? Brand event, not a wedding, not the birth of a child. Those are separate in real life things. But when you think of events, think of emotionally impactful. It can be anything. I'm going to start with one that only for me, and I'm a guy, so I do this. And it's also, coming to the end of the NFL season. I went to the NFC Championship game. Actually, not NFC Championship game. I went to a playoff game at Candlestick Park for the 49ers versus the New Orleans Saints. They won at the very last minute. Crazy game, awesome game. Grown men around me who hadn't seen the Niners succeed in many years were weeping tears of joy. Like, I got teary-eyed. It was such a, so many people in one place pulling for the same thing, having this like ultimate moment of joy together. The amount of emotional outpouring was freaking crazy. It was wild. One of my more memorable event moments. I know we can't all have like nationally televised sporting events to do that at, but that certainly sticks out to me as like I was just overwhelmed. It was great. So next up, Eric, we're going to you. What do you got as like an emotionally impactful event? Don't choose a sporting event.
I already did. It was before you even said anything. I'm sorry. Growing up in the Chicago area in the 80s with very European parents. My dad's from Hungary. My first Chicago Sting game. This is pre-MLS, indoor soccer. I was, I don't know, 7 or 8 with my dad and his friends. My dad's friend was a trader, like a broker for players. So we got to go into the hive, the locker room, and I got to meet, all these players that I'd seen on TV, and, going to the game was incredibly emotional. Also grown men crying around me. Just kidding. Okay.
No, I love the startup and like, indoor soccer being like, and plus your first experience, right?
My first big game. Kid.
It
was awesome.
All right. MK or Mylin, who wants to go next?
I'll go. Okay. So I think
for
mine, more of a series than an individual event. But when I was at Reed Pop on our Comic-Con events, we'd have cosplay championships. Mm-hmm. So there'd be a cosplay event the Saturday night of every Comic-Con in New York, in Chicago, in Seattle. And in the end, they would do a runoff. I want to say Seattle was the home of the international competition. I think folks came from our European shows as well to compete. And from a brand experience, those events were sponsored by people like Singer and Brother Sewing Machines and fabric companies and makeup companies. And to give an award to people in the cosplay community on behalf of those brands, they felt seen in a way that they had never felt before. They love this. They have a passion. There's no way they're ever offsetting the cost of building these intricate costumes based on the prize money. Like, it's a drop in the bucket compared to what they've invested in themselves. But the value of a brand I admire supporting me and my passion carried through internationally.
That's amazing. And Mylin, I realize now this is a very unfair question for you, because like you're with Gary Vee all the time. Like, holy crap, like there's nobody that's going to inspire more people in a large group than that. But fire away. Let us know what you got.
Mine's for a different reason. I feel like thank you for giving me the time and letting me go last. I would say on multiple levels, I think it's the year that I did Steph Curry's Asia tour, and we ended in Korea. So for me, it was one, seeing true global impact from an athlete, not only grown men crying, but children crying, and really inspired by Stephen and wanting to be like Stephen. But for me also, just professionally, just getting to a level of this actually doesn't just impact America. I mean, I'm now actually able to help facilitate a tour where we got Stephen on a variety show in Korea, and we filmed one in Korea. So like it went beyond just in person, but I was helping do marketing and like creating strategy for how we continue to broaden his reach. And it was really more of a proud moment for me, if you will, in seeing all these families come and enjoy being in the presence of the greatest shooter of all time. But really curating that experience on multiple levels for press, for families that attended, for brands, for Under Armour, like just being in there and like watching from the corner of a basketball court, all of the moving pieces and all of the different audiences. Everyone had a core memory there that day in some way, shape, or form, whether it be the actor that got to play on the court on that variety show with Stephen, or the little kid that, Stephen's so kind. He says hi to everyone and signs a jersey. You got to see all different levels of it. We even hosted a dinner with some K-pop stars there. And this is before K-pop was truly a thing in the US, so I feel like I was on the forefront of that one, but
Love it.
But just to see the different audiences and the nuances, for me, I think that's one of my core memories and what I will truly appreciate.
That's awesome. And look, when it comes down to it, that's what we're in the business of doing, is building memorable experiences that resonate with people long after their events and build opportunities for individuals to interact with brands, interact with one another. So thank you. And Mylinh, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you. To everybody that joined us, we appreciate you all as well. We will be back in a couple of weeks. I think MK dropped a link to where we will be. Mylinh, we're going to have to check in with you as we close in on VeeCon again, because we definitely circle back. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us this afternoon. Eric, MK, thank you as always. We appreciate LinkedIn.
See everyone at
and
VeeCon.
YouTube. There you go. See you at VeeCon in August.
Thanks for having me.